Welcome to the Tao of Pizza, where we feature top logistics leaders, entrepreneurs, and supply chain innovators and share their inspiring stories with a holistic twist.
All right, Mark Hiddleson here, host of the Tao of Pizza podcast, where I talk with top industry innovators in the warehousing, logistics, and supply chain business with a holistic twist. This episode is brought to you by Specialized Storage Solutions. Listen, I've been in the logistics and storage industry for several decades, and I know I don't look that old, but it's true. We provide industry-leading warehouse storage solutions nationwide. So basically, if you have a warehouse that needs racks, shelving, carts, conveyors, or mezzanines, we help with design, engineering, installations, inspections, and repairs to help clients optimize their logistics operations. You know, it's funny, Chris, sometimes people don't even realize that we actually help with permit acquisition service. We take a holistic look at your entire business supply chain ecosystem to develop the resources for continually improving your operations. To learn more, visit specialracks.com or give us a call at 707-732-3892. And I even give my personal email out for podcast listeners, so email me, markhiddleson@aol.com, if you're ready to take your warehouse storage and retrieval systems to the next level. All right, we got Chris Mervier, the CEO of Sierra Pacific Warehouse Group, which offers BRC organic certified warehousing and logistics in Central California for frozen, refrigerated, and ambient food products. Since 1987, Sierra Pacific has been a family-owned business operating with leading food companies in the world, as well as new startups. Accuracy, expediency, and quality with friendly customer service are the guiding principles behind Sierra Pacific. Chris has a background in global marketing in the cycle industry and serves on many nonprofits in the Modesto area for arts, music, and history and culture. He's currently working to build a museum of Modesto's American graffiti experience. Chris believes that local companies need to get involved and make a positive difference where they can. That's one of the reasons why he also founded ModestoView, a monthly publication that promotes civic pride and a sense of community in the Central Valley. Chris is a great example of how a local family-owned business can be as valuable or more valuable and efficient to a customer than a big national company. Chris, welcome to the Tao Pizza.
Hey, it's good to be here in the Tao Pizza. I think I remember being on a flight. We were flying to Chicago, I think, to ProMat when you were cooking this idea up. I mean, it's great. It's great to have been there. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time, done some crazy projects, traveled the planet together, and it's amazing how all this stuff connects, and that friendships go far beyond business, and relationships are really important. And that's even more now important than it was before. I think everyone's gotten so used to being on Zoom calls or being on remote meetings. It has. It's great to have these long-standing relationships in the community, and I'm thankful that you're offering to have me here today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And the relationship, it's funny with us. I mean, we've been business associates for over, like I said, neither one of us looked that old, but it's been like 25 years, like the late 90s. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff I want to get into.
Yeah, I think that first project was a big, giant, 200,000 square feet of rack for the Cisco project,
Yeah,
So.
It was my first big project. And I walked into your office, and it's just like, man, this guy has a ton of energy. And I looked at, what you were up to. And one of the big things I like to study is people's worldview. And it's really like what you think is possible. And I just remember looking at the way your office was set up and the projects you were involved in. I think you had just started ModestoView. And
not much has changed. It's still, it's still kind of a shrine of extracurricular activities,
And so I didn't even, I've had a lot of rock stars on the show, rock star, the metaphor, but you are actual rock star. And I didn't have it in your intro, but talk a little bit about your third party and why you started that project.
Well, the name, you got to love the name. Our band is named Third Party. We've been at this now for 27 years with a bunch of friends. We connected in our neighborhood, which is, again, strengthening, how neighborhoods are important to everything. And we're still playing together after all this time. And we were rocking last night for National Night Out. I mean, it's great. If you haven't been a part of this, I'm a big believer of being a part of your neighborhood and the community, whether it's through the company or through just friends. But it's a great way to get together with the police, the sheriff, the highway patrol, local vendors, local healthcare. And our band's been playing this national night out, just a way to get neighbors and families together. I had kids out there dancing, and it's great. It's a way to put some, I've always been in a band at one form or another since I've been a kid, and junior high or something like that. But anyway, I think it's a great way to bring people together. Music has a wonderful way of knocking down a bunch of barriers. There's, you may be a Beatles fan or a Stones fan, but, everyone listens to the same music in most cases. And so I really appreciate what music does for my life and for the community as well. It's just a whole lot of fun. Place we get to play this stuff we love. Like we did the entire album of Abbey Road last night. It's not a normal undertaking because Abbey Road's kind of complicated. We did skip because in Sun King. So just full disclosure, we didn't play those two songs. But yeah, I think it kind of just sets the foundation of how you operate. You and I hit it off early on just because we had hey, it's bigger than both of us. We don't succeed unless others succeed. And I think that's been kind of how I've operated my whole life, and whether I'm running global marketing for Specialized bicycles or, working with I work for a Japanese company, kind of teaching them about USA marketing, and I didn't succeed unless they understood it. And if they weren't successful, I wouldn't be successful. And I think that truly underscores kind of what we, the whole idea of win-win. It really is possible, but it's frustrating sometimes. You see, there's a lot of win-lose, conversations that people are having right now.
Yeah, I just we have a project that we're working with a landlord, and for us, usually the landlord is kind of like a third party that we just need them to sign off on paperwork that we can do projects. And they sent a lot of letters with detailed, you should have read, it was telling my client, you should have read section 2.4.2.3 of your contract. And I was like, does anyone read section 2.4? And then in the end of the email,
I read 2.3, but I must have 2.4.
But in their email said, I want to do anything I can do to help you. So I had a phone call and I said, well, could you send me something that somebody did in the past? You could show me. And she goes, look, I'm not going to do your work for you. I was like, you just said you would do anything to help. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's not. And you were the opposite of that. I remember early in my career, your company wanted to buy used equipment for a lot of reasons. I mean, at that time, it was a real price advantage, but it's available.
That's why we're still doing business together, is I love used equipment.
Yeah, and there was a product, it was drive-in racking, which is it's a lot more complicated than just regular racking. And the company I worked for at the time, my boss said, well, there's really no way to sell those systems used because there are specific applications, a specific design, engineering. And I went in your office, I told you that, and you said, come here for a second. You had me come around to your side of the desk and you showed me the interwebs. I was like, back then we had the internet, but I wasn't really using it for business. And you pulled up, you're like, look, there's this company in Minnesota that does they've got it right here. And you kind of showed me their website and it was like, wow, they can do it. So that was to me, it was like you were giving me an opportunity to do my homework. And then that's actually I ended up creating. That's what started me creating my own company, because the company I was working for really didn't want to do systems, and you gave me that opportunity. And I really appreciated that all these years. That that's what a win-win looks like. Instead of being, keeping your suppliers at arm's length, it's like, let's work together.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I feel the same way, and that nobody's a real expert, in my opinion. I mean, that's what's awkward about some of these Zoom calls. It's like I see so many people that think they just know the answer to everything. And I've been around for a while. And the more I know, the less I know. And so there's always ways to do something different than I did it yesterday. And if I can take advantage of a piece of equipment you may have, well, I'd rather spend the time find out a way to make it work than just say, can't figure it out. Let's buy it new out of the box. As a small company, I don't have that ability. I don't have monster capital or some New York office sitting behind me saying, we're going to give you $20 million to make this expansion. I just don't have it. So we have to be smarter with what we have and rely on the people, our suppliers and contractors, to say, we're going to collaboratively figure this out. And I think it's the only way really to move forward. And it's the only way actually really to stay nimble. If you just think you know everything and you stop listening, you're toast, because the next wave is going to come through and they're going to jerk the carpet out from underneath you.
It is. And I work with bigger companies, and a lot of them have engineering groups that, you look at some industries, and one company can have a complete engineering group, and it actually kind of slows them down, rather than, a lot of times I'm fitting in a lot of I'm dealing with founders or owners or the president of the company, and they don't have an engineering group. So they're counting on me to kind of run it as if I was their mini internal engineering group.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. I'm a big believer in expertise. Like when I come to you, I said, I want to know exactly how much this is going to hold it, how many pallet positions. You are truly an expert, and then you do know all you need to know about that particular thing. I just kind of I don't want to end up being the Sphinx.
Right.
The
Oracle. The Oracle of Delphi. Know thyself.
Right. When you can take these stones out of my hand, grasshopper.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say. I don't want to be a philosopher. I like to dabble in philosophy. I don't want to be a philosopher because I don't want to make the same commitment that Socrates did and put my life on the line so that I can keep studying it. But yeah, I do. I'm an expert in racking, and because of clients like you, we're still having a lot of fun.
Well, yeah. I remember we went from that conversation doing that rack project. We did that drive-in project. Once you started specialized, rack solutions, I remember being at your house over a couple of good bottles of wine, and we built your website that night. It was got you online, and it was fun. I had a little bit of knowledge that you needed. You had a company possibility that made a lot of sense. And I knew that one thing I did know, I knew that the more successful you were, the more beneficial it would be to my company, because you would have access to a wider range of ideas and solutions. And I think that's proven true. You've truly become an expert, and the networking you've done in the industry has really positioned you. I can come at you with anything, and you will have seen it somewhere else. And it's, I kind of that's the best thing. It's our R&D. It's rip off and duplicate. Here's a great idea somewhere. I'm all about that.
Yeah, let's rip it off and duplicate. Yeah, that night
you can have is a not invented here kind of mindset.
So we part of our career, we were involved in. We were on the roundtable, Northern California roundtable for the Warehousing Education and Research Council. And the day I started my company, it was kind of like the sun, the moon, and the stars aligned. We always planned on doing a tour. That's a lot of how we've built our career over the years, doing warehouse tours or leading them, volunteering to put them on, host a luncheon. And we had that tour in Reno set up. It was April 15th, 2005. And we already had planned, you were coming to go with me. We were going with that just because we were on the board together. And when you got to the front door, I said, Chris, I got great news. I started my own company today. And you said, well, do you have a website? And no, before you even got in the door, you had your laptop out of the bag, and you're like, where can I sit down and set it up? And that night, that was the day I started my company. So I hadn't really told anyone because I felt like it was ethical, to wait until I quit. That was the day I quit, and I started the same day. And
I'm hopeful there's still that Opus One bottle of wine sitting around your house somewhere.
Oh, we drank that a long time ago. Yeah. We probably drank that. Now I think you might have even been there when we opened that bottle.
Yeah. It sounds hazy.
I wanted to ask you too, because I know wasn't in your bio, but I know you were a professional athlete, professional cyclist. And I was curious about, I've never asked you anything about this before, but what are some of the principles that you learned if you're a professional athlete, you're training, you're coaching, what are some of the principles that took you into business that you use, that you still use?
Yeah, I've learned a lot. I built a factory, helped build a factory for Raleigh bikes up in Seattle back in the mid 80s. And then I worked for a Japanese company that was trying to sell the United States market. And what you learn from all of them is, and then with Specialized, the message was simple. It was innovate or die. That was the mindset and the mantra of product development, at our company. If you didn't innovate, you're going to get knocked off. Or if you're not thinking about your customer's next move or what your customer's next need or want, or as an athlete, where the race is going to go, who's going to attack? Where's your, because I was a cyclist. And so, if you didn't know where, how to make yourself better as an athlete, and then know where your competitors are going to either fall off or where their weaknesses were, when to attack. I mean, those are things that are just kind of, they cross industries. I mean, the same mindset as an athlete of staying fit, staying up to date, staying in good training, staying healthy, staying aware of your equipment, the industry, the people around you. I think that's no different than being in business, at least for our company. We have no choice but to be nimble, because, we've got large companies out there that can sell a national solution, and so we've got to go at it looking like, if we don't innovate today, that's what is going to keep us in business 5 years from now. And we invested early with EDI, and we invested early with being BRC and GSFI food grade. And so it's really kind of knowing when to take those opportunities, and then leapfrogging that to team up with, basically global national food companies, because they make you better. And that's how you look at it. Your trainer makes you better. Your competition makes you better. The equipment that you have and your mindset makes you better. And so if you start acquiring those tools, you're more valuable to somebody else. And then in turn, you make them better. I think it's kind of a hokey thing, but it is really, truly a circular chain.
Yeah.
That once you step off, you can cause damage to your company, your employees. We have, nearly 200 employees here. And so I don't come to work for me every day. I come to work for them. It's my job to have something on deck for 3 years from now, something on deck for 5 years now, because we have a lot of people depending on us as a family to keep it going. And it's no different than your ability or fitness for a race. You've got to be ready for the 100-mile, road race as well as the 40-mile flat rectangular, criteria. It's
yeah, the athlete trains so they can run the race. Yeah, exactly.
You got to be ready for anything, because what's going to get thrown at you. So, that's what's kind of, I believe has given us over the edge. We've had some really great connections with large companies. We've also lost, big relationships with companies. With growth and success comes failure and departure. So there's only so much you can control about your relationship. And, you get some new VP of logistics and they want to decentralize. Next guy comes in, they want to centralize. And then,
that's one of the things that's kept us in business is people will go, oh, we need to outsource this and go with third-party logistics. And then 5 years later, they go, oh, we need to bring this in-house.
Right.
And so then every time we set up the racking for the third-party logistics.
You're like a stockbroker. You get it on the take and the sell.
Yeah. Well, that's great about the athlete. And you mentioned your employees. I've worked with your company. That's one of the things I look at, the people, the quality. You have the highest quality people at every position. Bertie Rodriguez runs your Patterson plant. I went to high school with him, Kenny Sauls. Every person up to your CFO. And it's funny, like one of my rules of business is get to know the CFO because they write the checks, right? It's important in business. And you've always, whenever I've asked you if I saw, things about employees or attracting good employees, you've always said, we have top notch. One of the reasons we attract those kind of people is because we offer the best. You mind saying something about that? We're
screwed without our best people. Period. You cannot, if you have a busy day, you have 100 trucks on your schedule, there's no way no one person can save the day. That is just a fundamental truth of time and space. 8 hours left. And if your team isn't there, we basically fail. You turn the lights off. And so, Bird and Kenny and these guys and Michelle have done a dynamite job and to really take it to the next level. And now, my father-in-law, Mike, started the company back in the late 80s. He was an industry veteran for years since the 60s in cold storage. He ran Merchants Refrigerating, and then which became, Christian Salveson, so he brought his experience to start our company like you did. And then, we came in and took it to a new level that I think is fits with the way we wanted to run it. And now I've got my kids in. So I think, we're setting it up so that we've really got a good family, transition here, and it's 100% about the people. And especially the last 2 years. The last 2 years, it's been a crap show. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It just flat out sucked. I mean, I remember St. Patty's Day 2 years ago. We're sitting there enjoying a pint down at P. Wexford's, and all of a sudden the doors are closing on COVID, and it shut down that night. And I went to work the next morning going, what do we do with all these people? And then our customers were just like, you're still open, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
It's food, right? The show must go on.
It was up to us to figure it out. And so without that team, we could have easily cratered in the early few months of COVID. We immediately put in precautions, divide up the warehouse, implemented, we call it our clean team. And all they did was walk around sanitizing and keeping everyone safe, make sure their masks were on. I mean, and that's essentially how we survived. And we only survived because of the cooperation of our employees. If you listen to the outside world, everyone is getting different information from every political side.
Right.
But our employees had to believe in what we were doing. And our goal was to keep them safe. And so that's where, for me, that's where the rubber hit the road. May 17th, 2020, that's all of your prep and homework mattered on that next day. And the subsequent months as people tested positive, quarantined out, running them on a thin crew. And then also just leveling with your customers and saying, here's where we're at. I mean, here's what we can accomplish this week. And, I think that dialogue and understanding made it work and us to make it through. I mean, it's not out of the woods yet, but basically, we've survived, the big pandemic, especially in the food world where our business never stopped.
Right.
I mean, our business increased despite our ability to run it like with a broken leg, and kudos to the team that we made sure we recognized them through the year, both financially, just intrinsically fed them lunches and, that's, and you're so spot on about the people. And, they really mean a lot. And they are, in a family business, they are family. They're not just a productivity number to me. Some people have higher performance levels or lower performance levels, but they offer something different in terms of, technology or ability to use our WMS. Are they great pickers? Are they great loaders? And we learned a lot about who everyone was during the pandemic. I feel we've come out stronger post-COVID as a company and as a kind of a unit. We've had to make some decisions of customers to keep working with too,
Yeah, because I remember I was talking to you, there was some very, very low points in that. I mean, when you have that many employees, just a numbers game, it was bound to happen. And I remember thinking, and it's funny, I'm always reading stuff online, and I just found out there's something that's called toxic positivity. And I was like, oh no, I'm a toxic positivist because I'm like a cloud. There's a cloud in the silver line, or they were saying like failure's not an option, which you brought up some of the failures. And the thing is, I'm a failure's not an option guy, but I also had tons of failures and learned from it. So it isn't.
It's not an option, but it's a given.
It's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to take that option. Yeah. So it's funny. I saw this toxic positivity. I'm like, man, I guess they had to do a label to call it something. But in the same thing, like, I know the type of person you are, and I know at that low, I was like, wow, I wonder what silver lining is going to come out of this, because I know Chris is going to turn it into a positive. So if you don't mind, I mean, I know it was a low point, but if you just share, you started to talk about, I think you're stronger now.
Yeah.
Because
we really learned about how deep our team loyalty was during this time. I mean, there was a time when I was out, my two managers were out, my kids were out, because we took each other out. The downside to a family business is that, and you have to get on the phone and love with your clients to say, here's where we're at, here's what we cannot do, we can't, and then work on solutions. We actually sent our team up to another warehouse in Oregon to help fulfill the needs of our customer because we didn't have the manpower. I'm sharing that, with them. I'm free to share that, but that's the length that we went to take care of our customer when our team fell short. And this is in the dark days of the end of December 2020 when it was out of control. And your choice, you can't stop serving, but you can make the best of what it was, keep your customer. And some of our customers, you know, appreciated the way we handled it. And we got some good relationships out of that. They saw how hard we were trying to make it still work for them. You know, and then the thing is, it was interesting during the pandemic. Everyone had the same problem. So I think everyone got a lot less tough. You know, some people like to be tough and tell you how to do, you will do this and blah, 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 you know, and you kind of go, sure, yeah, whatever, you know, but at the same time, they're in the same boat and half of their team's gone and half of their team's working. And I think that, you know, that we're all in this together, which we were, helped see some understanding about how it exposed the supply chain, and it exposed where the holes were, and it exposed where the containers are backing up in Oakland, or there's not enough drivers, you know, and we're giving sandwiches to the drivers just to make sure that they would continue to come to our warehouse. And we did that in concert with our customers because we knew we had to keep it running. So, lots of lessons learned. It was a pretty gruesome time for, I think, most all of us in our industry, you know, especially in the food side of the world. You know, a lot of the other stuff shut down. I mean, you know, fortunately for all of us, you know, we've made the decision years and years ago to stay in the food space. And I like being a part of the food supply chain. I feel our role in feeding the planet is pretty valuable. And our employees even see that. When they see the products that roll through here during tomato harvest or wherever it is, and knowing that all that stuff, you know, reaches out to everywhere. I mean, I think you see your space. It's like this "you are here" thing, right? When you do Google Earth, you're here, you know, and this, what you're doing is going here, and that's coming from here. And when you connect, when you see it like that, I think you understand kind of better what your part is.
And I think partnerships were a lot of, you mentioned Mike, the founder of Sierra Pacific, Mike McNulty. I remember one of the things, I really look up to him. He's a super, super person. For the minute you shake his hand, you hold on to his hand, and you're like, wow, I've got a hold of something special. But he was partnership mindset to me in business, and that a lot of things you could accomplish with a good partner that you couldn't accomplish on your own. Is that still true? Is that what you're talking about, your partnership?
I mean, you know, it is the elusive win-win. You know, what we offer our customers should be a benefit to them and make their company run better. And it should make us better and allow us to be profitable. I mean, if I'm not profitable, then you can't make that up by more volume, you know?
Exactly.
You know, it's like you sell more for less. And so I think without that partnership of just laying it out, you know, we're kind of an open book. You know, we'll do cost plus programs with people. And it's like, what we're doing isn't complicated. You know, it can be difficult and can be detail oriented, but the movement of goods is pretty straightforward, what you're trying to accomplish. You know, getting it right on the inbound, getting it right on the outbound, and storing it accurately and not losing product, and making sure you're tracking batches. It's not rocket science. You know, I'm not trying to put something dropping on a planet, you know, 600,000 miles from here.
Maybe in 5 to 10 years, that's where the puck is going. If you're Wayne Gretzky, you need to. Yeah, but to your point, though,
but I mean, that just, you know, it seems like that partnership is really key. And, you know, I look at some of these words, we go into some of these relationships where I say, oh, we all about collaboration. Really, what does that mean? You know, is it you shaking me down for the last nickel on the decimal point? Because if that's the goal, then we're probably not the right partner. I'm 100% sure I will never be the least expensive warehouse because of our team, because of our sanitation, security, you know, commitment to quality. And so I'm good with that. You know, if someone's going to give it to you for cheaper and you don't get X, Y, and Z, well, you know, that's a philosophical parting of ways, you know, in many cases.
It is. And those, you know, in our business, it's a race to the bottom when you start doing that. If it's who can get who first, it's a race to the bottom. I try to get out of that. But you've started before the pandemic. There was already a trend of direct to consumer, right. And you kind of started a pivot or a shift into that. And then March of 2020, all those companies, especially in the food industry that were going direct to consumer, were seeing massive growth, right? You can't go out, so people were ordering in. You were pretty much ready for it. I would think, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was something we had gotten pretty good at. We had some large customers in the direct consumer spaces, some national brands. The things that people didn't think about is when people stopped driving their cars, they bought less gasoline. And without gasoline, you're not refining. And refining is where you get CO2 that makes dry ice blocks. So you never think for a million years that the fact that people stopped driving would create a shortage of dry ice as the market expands. So that was an example of what do you do now? And that's where your supplier relationships came in. It's like, who's going to get the dry ice?
Yeah.
And you had to manage that. So that's just an unforeseen byproduct in the direct consumer space. And I think what it did is it cemented the direct consumer model in the marketplace as a given. Whether it's Instacart, DoorDash, direct consumer, company fulfilled, 3PL fulfilled. People just used to getting a pile of stuff at their door every day. I go home in my house some days, I shake my head.
It's so easy.
Someone dumped a truck of cardboard boxes on my patio.
Are you hungry? Yeah.
Exactly. No, but I think the D2C thing is here to stay. But I'm curious as just a student of all of this to see what it's gonna look like 1 or 2 years from now. Because a lot of the superfluous stuff that if you were buying specialty desserts or something, you may not be doing that anymore because you can go by the bakery or make your own cake to take it to grandma's house for Thanksgiving.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see what remains. And I don't know. I don't have the answer yet. I don't think any of us have that answer yet. But it's a fascinating model to look at what is going to be the consumer preferences for home delivery. And I think a lot of it's kind of getting back to the grocery store delivery, the retail delivery. It's Target, Ace Hardware, and all these people that are doing their own direct consumer, which then pushes back to all of us in the 3PLs because it makes inventory management at their warehouses that much more important. So they're living off of scan outs, and that changes the order pick profile, even in our regular 3PL business, because the orders get pickier and the number of line items per order get longer because we're fulfilling to, any retailer that's fulfilling their direct consumer business. So you can see how, even though it might be handled by different people who actually touch that consumer door, for us in the 3PL world, it's going to change the order profile, of how it gets to them, in my opinion. I mean, that's kind of how I see it evolving, as I think a lot of people go, whoa, wait a minute, all these people, these direct consumer that took all our business. And I think a lot of people are starting to fight back and say, oh, wait, we should be doing our own. So it's stay tuned to that page because I'm really curious to see how it goes.
The BOPUS is called BOPUS.
It's like a psychology project. What are you going to keep, ordering every week? Or, it's like meal kits. We don't really do any of the meal kit business, and it's because it's the retention rate's so low. People get all jacked up on a certain line, and then 3 months later, they've got, 20 meals packed up in their fridges they never made.
Right.
So I'm just curious just to see, where it's going to shake out.
Where this trend goes. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because it's ingrained in our culture now. But how does our industry in the 3PL? I mean, you're probably seeing it. We're changing racking profiles. It's fewer and fewer deeps and more selective, which is worse on your warehouse utilization. So, it's all a big math problem, right?
It is. And they mentioned inventory. So for probably 20 years I was in the business, everyone was, the trend was to get as little, supply chain was so efficient and you could get stuff so quickly. Inventories got really down because inventory costs money, right? I was thinking about the other day, it actually made me nervous to think about how much inventory I have and how much that money costs each year. I'm like, if you have $1 million worth of inventory, last time I checked, that's like $5,000 to $10,000 a month of just carry the cost of that $1 million.
The price of steel, your inventory is probably worth $2 million.
But it's yet if you can sell it. But what I was saying, everybody got their inventory as low as possible to get just in time. But now, because of supply chain, inventories are going back up because people are going, hey, we can't get this stuff. It's going to be a 9-week wait. So inventories are going up.
Yeah, I think in our industry right now, I think it's mindful for everyone to look at throughput versus inventory. You got to look at what is still moving and then what's not moving. And that's where I think the granular math is going to be on this, because the ports haven't cleared up yet. We haven't gotten the container backlog through, which is going to have a huge impact for all of us here in California. It's when you're dealing with the Port of Oakland or Port of Long Beach, and people are struggling to export or import any way they can, people do get really creative, and that creativity will disrupt the chain in the long term. So this is I think we're walking across some ice field, and some of the ice field's kind of melting, but some of it's getting thicker. I use that metaphor because I just got back from Alaska watching the glaciers, and seeing the glacial retreat is frightening. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. It's like, I think it's an uneasy footing. All the stuff you took for granted back in the early days of, I'm hoping my customers, and it's our goal to check in with them to make sure we are doing that, because we don't check in. It's like a relationship. You don't make sure each one of you are doing well along the way. It's like everyone has their different pinch points for what happened through the last couple of years, and the import export has affected pretty much everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you grow a tomato or an almond here in California, you're having a tough time getting containers to get it out of here. So nothing's the same at all. And whether how we look at our floor, our inventory, our throughput, our velocity reports, we got to look at all that stuff right now. And it's because you don't want inventory to back up. And that's when you start seeing warning signs on the economy. We saw that back in 2008, 2007. A lot of the specialty food stopped selling. The inventories, that stuff, the commodity stuff started rolling through, because you could kind of see the canary in the coal mine of, wait a minute, these really fringe products that are in the specialty organics stopped selling. And that you could tell that people were starting to pull back, as a consumer. And so that's just kind of my, back of the cocktail napkin math on looking at, throughput versus inventory backups. It's not rocket science, but it just says, it's like, as long as we see the products in our region continuing to flow, that's how you can kind of have an idea that there's still a good demand economy out there. And we're starting just now to see more labor available. It's been really, really hard. And so the footing is getting a little bit more stable.
So one of the best ways we've kind of, and this is one of the reasons I think we're people, a lot of times when people see us together, they ask if we're brothers. But I'm a lifelong learner. I think you're the same way. A lot of the reasons we clicked is we like going to events where they're talking about leading edge. I remember when Walmart was driving the RFID mandate back in, I forget if it was the late 90s or early 2000s probably. And we were at meetings, but people discussing these things, not just at the round tables or the sanctioned events, but at the swimming pool, at the bar, getting in a group.
Pool logistics.
Was poolside. We invented, and I hosted Michael McKicka a couple weeks ago. Just came out a great interview with Michael McKicka. He didn't know about the poolside logistics 101, but he said they were going to put it on the main.
No, you got to. It's like a speakeasy. You have to know something.
Yeah, if it's on the main program,
you can't put that kind of stuff on the agenda. Mike, don't do it if you're watching this.
Yeah, or food shippers.
But it is important to network. Sierra Pacific has always believed in networking. We learn from our customers. We learn from casual conversations. I'll learn something is from somebody that's not even my customer of the stuff they're dealing with. And it's something I can put into place here at our company just because we're facing some of the same issues. And I think our industry needs to do a better job of kind of letting their guard down a little bit, because we're all collectively in the same boat, kind of going the same way. And there's a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily trade secret that will all help us manage our companies better. And I think that's the value of a CSCMP, WRC, IWLA, GCCA. We're actively members of these groups, and to go to the operating meetings at the GCCA is really valuable. I mean, we have a warehouse that have ammonia refrigeration. The rules and regulations are changing. And there's other warehouses that have done stuff differently. And so as an owner like you are, if we don't stay up on the regulations, the rules coming around the corner, you're going to wake up someday and find out what you're doing is either illegal, or you can't do it anymore, or you didn't invest in the right equipment, or, you know, what's happening right now with the refrigerated trailer, you know, the reefer units. You know, if you don't stay up to speed on that, because that's being very much regulated in the state of California, and you either have to be ready for it or not. So
Yeah.
I'd be ready for it, right?
And for people who don't know what GCCA is, it's Global Cold Chain Alliance, right? GCCA, is that part of AFI, American Frozen Food Institute?
You know, American Frozen Foods is more of a food grower, a food suppliers and producers side. And the American Frozen Foods Institute works closely with the GCCA. So roughly half of our business is frozen and half of our business is ambient refrigerated. And so we definitely, you know, work with both sides of the temperature wall here, you know, and taking care of our customers, you know, so makes it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and going all those, I mean, it's the people, it's the relationships, and you're right. There's something magic. And Norski is kind of the same way. So Norski is an event that it's, and now I go to another event with, that's an engineering group. It's the Seismic Sizzle, which is a lot of people from our industry, but kind of the number one rule is we don't talk business. And so you still get into conversations because everybody's in that business. So you're not there to pitch or do any kind of, you know, prospecting or anything like that. But people are sharing ideas. They're sharing what they're up against. They're sharing, you know, their personal, like, what are you up at 2:00 in the morning?
Yeah, anyone who's a leader in their company understands antitrust stuff easily.
Right.
So it's pretty simple to get all that stuff. But I agree, a social setting to compare ideas and talk about, you know, frustrations, opportunities. I mean, it's always valuable. It's like, you know, a lot of these things like going to a therapist or something, you know, it's like you sit around with people and, you know, I'll sit at, you know, I've sat at the bar a couple of times. It's like, man, you're dealing with that too? Oh, sorry. I don't feel so bad. I said, I thought I was bearing all that weight on myself. It turns out that the issue is a common issue. And I think that that's helpful to know that we're in this bigger boat. And our company has benefited from these organizations. And we try to stay smarter and stronger from it. And most importantly, you know, what do you do with that information? You know, there's a lot of stuff that you go and learn about. It's like, it's up to us to come back to put it into action and tell our team about it and teach our people. This is a different way to do it. This is how we can do it. A lot of people don't like change, but this is the benefit for you if we change. And I think that's where we lead in our industries, is bringing those ideas back.
And it's quicker. You're more nimble.
All digesting it down so that it's relevant to the people out there picking cases every day and loading trucks. You know, they're going to come out if I say, well, we're going to do this thing. And if it doesn't make sense, they're going to, you know, I don't know how to load a truck as good as my lead guys out here do. They're amazing. And I would never pretend to tell them how to do it better. But there's things we can do with labeling, you know, wrapping and all this stuff that make the process of loading better. And everyone can add to the equation, you know, regardless of ability in some ways. And so much, you know, so I think it's a big opportunity. But it's like, it serves no purpose to go to a convention and then don't bring that information home to your team. And why bother? I mean, it's not just a boondoggle, you know, although it's a good boondoggle.
It is. Well, so Norski, I do want to put in a good plug for Norski because it's a ton of fun. It's mostly focused on skiing. The main reason I go is because you break out your guitar after dinner and thing. And I remember asking you.
The request lines are now open.
Yeah, I remember asking you if you ever get nervous because you're playing all the times, and I've heard that people, like, no matter how many times you go up there, you get nervous, and you go, well, I do get nervous, but then I go, I know 85 songs, and I want to put a disclaimer, 85 songs plus any song I've ever heard anybody ever request. You've been able to figure it out.
I think it's a couple hundred songs, but yeah, the point is, I know the first verse of everything. Yeah. I can usually fake it through a bit, and even when we play, I mean, I forget the words on these songs a lot, but you know that it has 3 verses. You know the first verse and the second verse, and most people that are seeing you, they probably don't know the third verse either.
Right.
So you can just sing the first verse over again, put another guitar solo. It's good. It all works.
Yeah. So before I got a couple. I'm going to get more personal. I'll give you a warning. But before that, how I know. So you help anyone from existing, bigger, larger national companies, but also startups. How do people? I remember being on an airplane one time. We were flying to Chicago, and I'm reading an Inc. magazine. I go, oh, this is a cool little company. They're doing some kind of sustainable food. And I knew that you were organic certified and you're into sustainability. I'm like, you should be doing business with these guys. And like, actually, we are.
Yeah.
How do people find out about you? Like, how did?
Well, I mean, in our industry, word of mouth means a lot. We get a lot of our leads from someone, especially right now in this weird overcapacity world we live in right now. I mean, where people are saying that we heard something about you from another person, and that's the best thing that can happen in our industry, that someone else recommends you. But being visible at these events, being visible as part of these trades, having your company on the directories, having your website up and running, looking good, showing your services. I mean, the having a good website is key to showing your professionalism, and then a good way to communicate back. And so you got to look at it. There's some people that say, will you trade free warehousing for a part of our company? It's like probably not. If you don't have enough confidence in your own company to put the resources behind it, we're probably not a good partner.
Right.
Then you can look at if they've received first round financing, or what kind of space they operate in. But I think that we've had so many customers, and that's what makes Sierra Pacific kind of unique, is that we found some of these cool companies are starting up, and then watch them get big, and then watch them become really successful. And then our job beyond that is when they stop becoming a boutique company, once they get into $30-40 million worth of sales, their needs have changed, or they're either building it up to sell it. Well, are we positioned in the event that they sell their company? Well, will the new company, so there are a lot of things that happen through that stage. And we're fortunate we've had a couple of companies that have gone through that whole life cycle with us. Some we've had that got bought by a big multinational and they moved it to LA or something. That's, well, the good side is you help the company grow. The bad side is the next move wasn't your move, but it opens the door to work with somebody else. So I think a lot of people, we try to work with the folks that have a good mindset, and you'll find out, just like meeting people, you're gonna know if they're good people or not, if they have the right goals in mind. They're, if they really don't know what they're doing and expecting you to figure out, well, we will. It's just not as cheap. You've got to basically say, all right, well, we can be consultants for you guys, but it changes the way it works. And then all that translates is that we've got to be heads up, on top of our game, tip of the bleeding knife or edge or whatever on technology, EDI, standards, food safety for the larger companies, because the global food companies can't afford to take a risk, and the guys who are managing these programs can't be on the hook,
right,
for sloppy warehousing. So and I think the work we do for these large companies has made us a better advocate for some of the smaller companies, because you really do want to succeed. I mean, you and I have walked the aisles many times at fancy foods show, and you kind of go through the aisle, say, hey, they're going to make it from the water to land. These people will evolve, and you start to see how they've grown. And some of our bigger companies still act like small startup companies, which means they're healthy and they're innovative. Right. It's a really good cultural, zeitgeist to see these shows and see who keeps on going back, and what the, buzzword. Like one year it's mango salsas, the next year it's matcha, and every year, there's a thing that everyone is into, and it's kind of fun to watch that. But then, when you're out there shipping the products out there, our employees see it. Hey, we're a part of this. Did you know we're shipping this? Oh, they feel proud. Our teams feel proud about the brands that we work with. And when they're packing the orders, when it's a busy day, I mean, they know they're part of this company, and they see ads on TV or whatever. It's like, hey, they tell their friends, we're shipping this stuff. I think it means a lot to remarket that back down to your team is like, you can tell them all the stuff, but you say, do you realize here's what you're doing? Here's what you're packing. And this is doing this for our customer. And, we are helping them grow because that's other opportunity for us. I mean, I think you have to show the possibilities to anybody, whether it's, your in-house team, your kids. Hey, if you get good grades in school and have a lot of extracurricular, you can go to a good college. I mean, it's the same thing that if we do a good job for a company and they grow, we become more, it's not much different, in terms of guidance, really, right? I mean, because you got your kids in your business too, and so
it was one of the things I was going to ask you. And with everything you're doing, one of the things I've admired you from the beginning, I remember watching you as a father and thinking, this guy, even with everything going, it's been family first with you. You mind saying something about that? I know it's kind of personal, but I'm the same way. It's like, I'm going to spend time with my family. I mean, you go to work.
I want every minute I can with my family, and that's one of the reasons I started, this, ModestoView here, is a local publication. I just started because, I live in Modesto, California. When I moved back to town, it was all Scott Peterson, the Yosemite hitchhikers, Gary Condit, and then so there was just a bunch of trash talk about our city. And it just, at the same time, George Lucas was born here. Star Wars was basically written here. I mean, American Graffiti was made about our town. My initial knee jerk was, why on earth aren't we telling people about this? Because it goes back to your kids and your family. If people realize that community live is pretty cool, we are the home of George Lucas. We're the home of American Graffiti. By that extension, we're the home of Star Wars. We have one of the first May the 4th day celebrations because of our position in Star Wars. So, and that appeals to all ages and genres. So that's where, as a company, you need to stay involved in your community and then provide opportunity for those next loop of young professionals to come back and return to the community. But they won't come back to your community unless you've created an ambiance or a culture around your community that says, hey, it's a pretty cool place to live. Otherwise, we'll lose our kids to San Francisco, Portland, or wherever. And that was my job, is I figure I'm going to do nothing but talk about good stuff about our community. And now here we are. I started it back in 1998. We're still publishing the magazine. It's 100% good news. And we've become one of the largest magazines and media outlets in Northern California. And it's a side hustle, so, but it's become important to our company's culture because this is kind of what we do. And we get our employees to go back and get involved and be in, the fun runs and the charity stuff and the food banks. And we encourage our customers to donate to the food banks, as with aged product. It's all about, it gets back to food waste. So that very long story right there is all a thing about, it's all about your family, because the more time you spend with them, the more time the more time in those experiences. I'm a big believer. I don't like to collect stuff. I mean, I like to collect stuff, obviously, but these are just tall tales of my travels.
Right.
And, our family, we are a big believer in creating experiences, because it's the experience that brings you together. It's not the Sony Xbox or I don't know video games. Sony, PlayStation or whatever they are. We don't
I don't know. Is it the Nintendo, whatever it is? Well, I'm not playing it. So
I have a functional Nintendo 64 with Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. So.
And Tank. Can I borrow your Tank cartridge?
Road Rash, but I think that just I mean one of my Hall of Fame experiences is my daughter and I, Abby, were sitting in the cafe in Paris, and we're sitting there, and who comes out of the metro subway was Hiddleson with his big luggage.
So that is a story that I wanted to hear. I mean, we've had a ton of Hall of Fame moments, but that one of my principles that I've worked, I always try to find out who the owner of a company is. I think you're probably the same way, because, whoever I'm dealing with, and then you and I over the years have developed a relationship. But a lot of the projects we do, I'm working with other people and your staff, and you have a fantastic staff. And I never, things happen. I always believe you have to work things out with the individual. It's not like, well, I'm going to call Chris Murphy, he's my buddy. I've never done that, except for there was one time. And I sent you, or I called you, and I was like, Chris, something happened. I don't agree with it. It wasn't the right thing. And you agreed with me. You said, you know what? You said, you're right. I saw that. I have to back up my employee. And it's kind of when you're a parent and you tell the teacher, the principal has to, and I'm like, I know that's what it is. I'm like, you know what? I will go down there and meet with you right now, but I'm in London. And you go, well, it just so happens I'm going to be in Paris in a couple days. And
No,
it's
we were
3 hours.
in Paris.
What's that?
And I said, what are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah. So I got on I call it the choo-choo train, you know, the 300 mile an hour, 200 mile an hour or whatever. Awesome ride from London to Paris. And yeah, when yeah, I'm like, how am I going to find these guys?
And there you, and then you came out this, our favorite cafe. So it's and that's it. I think, your kids, and I think anyone who can, I mean, I know it's not easy for a lot of people to travel, but you really need to see how other cultures live to realize A, how good we have it here.
Right.
And B, we shouldn't screw this up. We work with one of the charities we work with is called Hope Haven West. And they basically take wheelchairs to needy communities. And you actually spend a week fitting, people with no mobility into wheelchairs, and it's life-changing. And you look at just some of the basics that are out there. And I think that knowledge is really important for making long-term, long-range decisions, because you have to really look at what you do, how does it affect somebody else? Because if you're all in it for yourself, that'll last a little while, then people catch up with you. And the people that get burned don't appreciate it. And you'll start just trailing off. And I think when it's, I've come back to a lot, it's like, I believe that these relationships have to be win-win. To know how those relationships work, you have to understand the culture that they operate in. It may not be the same as ours. We do a lot of import work. The cultures and the needs, from Vietnam are a lot different than here, or Mongolia, and I think having that knowledge and having my kids see that this is the real world out there, I think helps brings it home. And I think it's kind of a guiding light of, having knowledge and empathy is a guiding light to how you kind of operate your day. Because if you don't put yourself in that other person's spot, then, sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't. You got to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I call it practicing the paradigms of peak performance principles, because a paradigm is somebody's worldview. So when you practice looking at it from their point of view, it's a practice. It's not normal at all. Like the normal thing is to go like, like you said, I'm an expert. I'm an expert in this. This is how it should be done.
Right.
Not.
Yeah. And at the same time, we're a teacher, it's
exactly.
Like, this economy has changed so much. A lot of people we deal with, we used to have the same logistics manager at a company for 20 years. That's gone. We'll have 5 different people. These food companies will give us 5 different people in a couple of years. And every time you've got to, it goes back to when I was at Specialized, we were launching in the South American market, and we were down in Brazil. And basically that history that we all had up here, history of the mountain bike, 1980, Mount Tamalpais, Mike Sinyard, Stump Jumper, all that legend stuff is pretty well known here, but down there, you had to teach the legend quick. It's like, oh, by the way, here we are. We're just here, and we invented this. We did this. Here's how it works. Here's our frames design. And you have to basically teach them the culture, like right away. And so we find that in our same spot, because we have people who come on and say, well, who are you guys? I got your account, and tell me your rate sheet. Oh, okay. Well, that's great. Here's who we are. Here's what we do. Here's the things. We want to make sure that we, bring you up to speed about what we do. And I think you're seeing a lot of churn in our industry right now with people coming in who don't necessarily have logistics training, or they've developed an app or a website and they want you to pick the cases. But in fact, many of them have never packed a box before. And so you have to be some kung fu teacher, right, at the same time at the same time of, helping them build their business. It's like people call up, I need a crosstalk. Well, crosstalk means it comes in as one unit, and it goes out with unit, or it comes in already identified with 3 different loads you're going to cross dock. A lot of people think, oh, I only wanted there for a couple of days, but I want you to pick off. That's not a cross dock. And so there's that educational process of even just the simplest stuff that we have to go back. How does insurance work?
Right.
How does this, what happens when you damage a case? What happens? And you have to reteach that stuff. And that's where our participation with all, the organizations like GCCIRW, learning how it helps us teach our own employees, which and then helps teach our newer customer. So, at Sierra Pacific, we tried to be that kind of that bridge to say, oh, here's how we can do it. Here's what we know. Tell us what you know, and where do the lines match up?
It's the T.
It's kind of
teach and be taught is the T in my space-time audit blueprint acronym. This SPCAC. The T is teach and be taught, and it is. You're right. I mean, you have to constantly be in learning mode and teaching mode at the same time, and it's what makes you a great partner, even competitor. I'm sure your competitors look up to you because you guys do such a great job. We got to wind things down, and I got to do a round two because I have a ton of stuff we have to do a round two. But what did I know I didn't miss anything, but what is I know you guys put in a solar. I wanted to talk about, you did a huge solar thing in Patterson because your frozen food, it's energy intense. But what's sort of share an experience of the company or anything, something that you're I don't want to say most proud of but what's something you're really proud of?
I think the position we occupy in the food space is what I'm most proud of it, because you can't get to serving these companies without the teamwork of quality, teamwork of safety, the teamwork of sales, the teamwork with our supervisors. I mean, and that for me, that's where the rubber hits the road. And some projects are more complicated than others. Some are easier, but having that team that it's kind of like, it's like, it's like you go into battle with the team you have, right? And I'm always pleasantly, not surprised, but pleasantly pleased when we start up something or get something going and the team completely rallies, understands it, and we help make our customers' experience starting up with us smooth. Because that's where the headaches. I mean, if they've moved from another warehouse, or they're just beginning, or they're taking that leap to the net, they've got a big client customer, they got a big gig with UNFI or Kroger or whatever it is, right? They're taking that step, and that's kind of what I fall back on. Is that we keep educating in these portions, and then when we have to do something that may or be out of our comfort zone, we can route. I feel like our company does a good job of rallying. We've helped with some amazingly fast changeovers from one place to another. We've been gracious when a company decides to move on, and that's paid off well for us. We've got some customers back because the deal they thought they had somewhere really wasn't the right deal.
I've heard so many stories like that where people, it looks the grass is never greener.
You can't burn a bridge, and it's you never know, if the company that you burn today will be bought by the company that's your next potential customer, and they'll remember it. It's you can't savage people on the way out, and that's just that doesn't come into our thinking really. And then you just have to be agile. I mean, we have to be smart with our money. I don't have the backing of 20 locations and a big investment fund behind me. So I've got to invest like Michelle. And Michelle did the math on our solar and just realized that with the price of electricity, the risk of electricity going up, it made sense to us to purchase our whole solar system. And so then it ended up having a quicker payoff than we thought. But when you get a large percentage of your daily needs off your roof, you're insulating yourselves a bit from the grid. And so that's and plus, I've got hybrid cars at home, and we have a solar on the roof. I am a big believer that there are finite supply of a lot of our resources. And in California, it's sunny pretty much every day. Yeah. So there's really no excuse in California not to be solar.
Yeah.
At one point there. And so you just have to be selective on your opportunities. It's like, I'm like a smorgasbord person. I see, this is cool. This is great. I want this. Let's do this. And you have to filter yourself and go practical, not practical, possibly. And then this is something we drill down, and I think we've been smart about, careful growth. I think Sierra Pacific has been smart about being of value to our customers. We're coming out of the pandemic right now. Now it's a lot of just not damage control, but it's cleaning up the mess of just doing anything you could to keep things running. And now kind of saying, all right, how do we really run this? What are the most important things? What did we learn? And not only that, what are things we stopped doing?
Right.
Sometimes it's like, it's like at home with guitars, which guitar that needs to leave. I remember the first gig I played the guitar. I can't sell this guitar, but you got to make way for another one, right?
Right.
But if it simply put, I mean, I've made the friendships in our industry have been amazing. The people that we have, I'm super proud of. And our team's ability to rally, be creative, and really come through for our customers, whether it's an end of a third quarter or fourth quarter push, or do that, or deal with, containers backed up in the Port of Oakland. I'm really, that's the thing. Those are the things I'm the most proud of. And the friendships built along the way. We've got good relationships, and if we don't, we try to fix them. And I have friends that I'm no longer doing business with that were good customers at one time that we're still friends with. And we're fortunate to be friends with our current customers, and people like you that sometimes we'll go where we don't do any business with together for 7-8 months. But all of a sudden there's some fire drill project where you come through in a clutch for us. So I think those are the things I've learned, is that it's just you've got to balance it all and try to take what you learn and do something, right?
Yeah, and I hate to end it, but what I've heard you say over and over throughout the whole interview is that the thing you're most proud of is your staff and your people and your culture and the ability that you position yourself to solve problems. And that I can see why in dealing with your company. And I deal with a lot of companies, and you can tell when you walk in the door, you feel a difference when you meet people. And you've always had the top people from, and we're working with warehouse manager all the way to whoever has to move the stuff out of the way so that we can do our job.
Right.
We have to, and everybody, top to bottom.
Well, plus I think the other thing we do is, it's like the buck stops with me, really. There's no, it's like we try to, we have a very horizontal organization. We try to provide opportunities for people to grow through the chain of through the warehouse positions, but we don't decisions here are made locally, and if things work, we make a call, move forward, and go. I think our core management team, with Michelle, me, Kenny, Bertie, Harrison, Abigail, and our customer service leads like Christina. They're amazing people, and between that group of people, we can pretty much hash it out pretty quick. Yes, no, keep, throw away. All right.
Yeah. nimble, but you're listening to all the ideas.
That's a lady that comes in and helps you organize your condo. Isn't her name Condo or something like that? It's like, does it mean something to you? Keep it. If it doesn't, move on. It's like.
Yeah, and the best way to, if a customer's interested or somebody's interested, what's the best way to get a hold of the website? I'm gonna have your personal email on the with your permission. I'll put your personal email in the show notes. What's the best way for people to get in touch with Sierra Pacific Warehouse Group?
Just contact at spwg.com. Okay. That number one more time. Contact at spwg.com.
or just check out
pacificwarehousegroup.com. Or just in our directory. It's my cell phone number, the website. We do have a really handy little quote form that we hope that you'll fill out, because it really helps us get some information by the time we call you back. What do you need? What are the terms? What's the product? How high can we stack it? The more we know, the better our first conversation can be in offering a solution. So, we're making really big impact inroads and repacking, relabeling, quality control checks, the fulfillment side of it, and then the small specialty case pick, home delivery, those things, as well as handling, thousands and thousands of pallets of commodity product that we think we're pretty good at. So I think there's something here for, whatever you need. So that's the best way to do it. Just www.spwg.com. And we'll try to take care of you the best we can.
Yeah, I've looked at that blueprint that you have on there for your clients to fill out, and it's awesome. I think it would be worth it, even if you weren't going to be a client. I think that's something that's worth it. All those questions. I go, well, I wonder how many people are really asking, like, do they know the answer to all these questions, and are they asking?
What we've learned is no, they don't, and they need to. And it's like, something, it's a great cheat sheet because you have to know if it stacks or not. You have to know if it's in a rack. I mean, I got people coming saying, I have these super sacks. Yeah, they're rackable. Well, how wide is a super sack after overhangs a pallet? Well, it doesn't fit in a drive-in. I mean, so it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
But, I think you have to really think of, we try to, it's a flow chart. It's like, how's it come in? How does it store? How does it unload it? How does it rack? How does it, if you don't get that, you could really rate a program badly if you don't understand. You think you're doing it for 4 high free stack and it turns out to be 1 high. Well,
you're out of space.
Happy campers,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is dynamite.
We work with rail too. And that's one of our big initiatives is what makes us different. What makes us different is, we really try to be understanding on what the customers need. We try to really make sure that we have a good, friendly, customer service relationship. And we try to specialize in certain markets, whether it's food, organics, and we also have partnered with our local railroads. Both of our facilities in Patterson and Modesto are both rail served. So, and railroad with the current truck situation is a great opportunity right now. There might be some shortage of rail cars here and there, but by and large, you can put 4 trucks in 1 rail car. That's something that we're really, really good at. And so that's we've kind of differentiated ourselves in the marketplace as being rail served. And that's just, looking where the products are and how your buildings are set up.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are tops, Chris. And this has been awesome, folks. We've been visiting with Chris Murphy, CEO of Sierra Pacific Warehouse Group, founder of ModestoView, Graffiti Museum. I didn't get to talk about
come to Modesto, man. We're building a museum celebrating our American graffiti and classic car history.
And how do people find out about that?
Down time in 1962.
How do people find out about the graffiti? We didn't talk enough about the museum.
GraffitiUSAMuseum.com. You think about it, just to digress a little bit, going into total geekdom here.
Yeah.
Is that we hosted an event at the Graffiti Museum. It was called Graffiti Con. And it brought together classic cars. It brought rock and roll, which classic cars and rock and roll go hand in hand. And if you go back and the times I've worked with George Lucas, and we did a whole series of tourist markers in town, and George's support was really helpful. But he built American graffiti around the music, which is why it starts out with 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock rock. And that's a rockabilly song. So
right.
That ties into our musical history back to 1938. So all of these things, whether it's business or stuff, history or culture, they all have these intersecting paths. And it's all about your community being cool. So if we have this museum that celebrates our classic car, our rock and roll radio culture, as well as being the home of Star Wars and comic book characters and TV and pop culture, it really is something interesting. And so we think it'll attract people from all over the world to come by and check out Modesto, because we're known for a lot more things, like whether it's tomatoes or almonds, American graffiti, classic cars. I mean, this is who we are. So yeah, and I think it helps people remember who we are too. I mean, if, our customers love coming to visit here. We have music in the plaza, cafes with music all the time, and it's great. People hang out there and they get to know and like our town. So if you've got to travel, might as well go someplace you like, right? And so yeah, it's a lot of stuff to do. It's like, what's that? I just watched Willy Wonka there night. It's like so much time, so little to do. No, wait a minute. So little time, so much to do. Yeah. It's always a busy day, and it's the most important is respect people's time too. I mean, it's like you want to make sure that everyone's busy and everyone is. How can we tell what we do quickly, succinctly, to the point, and make sure we help understand them? Because everyone's got 5,000 emails every day. Everyone's got 100 text streams going on right now. And just the continual drumbeat of work, we've got to simplify these things out every once in a while and make sure they just kind of settle in, leave an impression.
Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I know you're busy. You carved time out to make this happen.
100%, man. This is good. It's like, where's our next meetup is all I'm thinking about. We gotta, I'll take the train up to Jack London Square, man.
Well, I'm ready to rock. I will, let's get it on the calendar. And then Norski's going to be end of January. in Big Sky, Montana. So I'm probably going to send a link to this podcast to everyone on the North Ski. This is going to be the pick your date for North.
That's right. We get together, play some rock and roll together.
Yeah, but this has been awesome, Chris. Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the friendship over all these years. It's been a lot of fun. It's great to see how our families have both evolved. And it's great to see how our businesses have evolved and, and help support each other along the way. So you've always been really good to us. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Have a great day, man.
Thanks for listening to the Tao of Pizza podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.